Ayo, my brother's cat escaped. My girlfriend rescued it while I rushed inside to tell him that the cat was out. He yelled at us and got in our faces because I was too calm. I think that was abusive, but now I took him being treated like I took him in the wrong. I took him hurt and furious. So, ayo. I was unsure about what title to provide. Summary. My father was careless and allowed my brother's cat into the garage without realizing it. The cat was hiding under a car and dashed out when my girlfriend and I opened the garage door. I noticed the cat had escaped, and while my father and girlfriend tried to catch him, I hurried inside to inform my brother. My girlfriend successfully rescued the cat and brought him back inside. My brother then confronted both my girlfriend and me, verbally abusing us, apparently because I was too calm when I informed him of the escaped cat. He caused my girlfriend to have a panic attack, and now she is frightened of him. Her mother picked her up, and she has left. Now I am being treated as if I am at fault by my father, my brother, and his fiancée, while I believe I did not actually do anything wrong. Any minor mistake I made has been completely overshadowed and rendered irrelevant by my brother's abusive behavior. Am I in the wrong? I feel as though I am being manipulated. I am deeply hurt and angry. Detailed version. Here is what occurred. I, 29 years old, female, was outside with my girlfriend, 24 years old, female, Lily, saying goodbye to her as she was about to leave. Suddenly, I was alarmed to see my brother's, 31 years old, male, cat Addie, outside, strictly an indoor cat, hiding in the bushes alongside the driveway. It seems that my father, 65 years old, male, had been careless and allowed him to enter the garage, where he then hid under a car, escaping when we opened the garage door for my girlfriend to leave. This is my parents' house. My father resides here while my mother stays away for work. My brother, Daniel, and his fiancée, 35 years old, female, Sarah, have been living with us for about a week since he left his job and had to move out of the temporary accommodation provided by his employer. I have been living here for 18 months after spending 8 years living independently for various reasons related to disability, education, and finances. It made sense for me to stay, and my father has welcomed me, as we generally get along well. Lily and I have been a couple for 2 years, and she has consistently spent a lot of time here. My father appreciates her presence and frequently tells her she is always welcome. Prior to Daniel needing a place to stay, we were discussing formally having Lily move in with a rental agreement, which would have happened otherwise. Now, returning to the situation with the cat, when I first saw Addie outside, I immediately alerted Lily and my father, who were both right next to me. They rushed over, and the cat dashed down the narrow space beside the house. Since Lily and my father were blocking his escape route, I did not attempt to catch Addie myself for several reasons. I am allergic to cats, so I do not pet him, and as a result, we are not bonded. Therefore, I expected it would be more challenging for me to catch him compared to Lily and my father, who regularly interact with him. Additionally, my disability causes me to move slowly, so alerting the others was a quicker way to summon help. Once Lily and my father approached to catch Addie, my father instructed me to go and tell Dan, prompting me to hurry inside to his room. I moved quickly but did not run and calmly said, "Dan, Addie has gotten outside." Daniel and Sarah, who was present with him, immediately jumped up and sprinted outside. They exited through the front door of the house, while in the meantime, Lily had caught Addie and brought him back inside through the garage. Lily called out to inform Daniel and Sarah that she had returned with the cat. The entire incident, from the moment I spotted Addie outside to Lily's notification that the cat was back inside, lasted less than a minute. Herein lies the problem. At that moment, Daniel stormed back into the house, approached me directly, and began verbally berating me. He was furious and behaving very aggressively. As he advanced toward me, Lily and my father became concerned and exclaimed, "Whoa, it wasn't her fault." When he continued to yell at me, Lily intervened, stood between us, and demanded, "Stop talking to her that way. Back off." Daniel then shifted his focus to her, jabbing a finger near her chin, but not quite touching, getting extremely close to her face, and shouted, "Don't you dare get between us. This is a family matter and this is our family home, so get out. You are not welcome here. Leave." Daniel and Lily exchanged further heated words, with Daniel behaving aggressively and Lily attempting to shield me. everything became so tense and intense that I cannot accurately recount the exact phrases used or precisely what occurred. However, Daniel eventually backed off slightly, creating a meter or two of space between us, while still shouting. Somehow, we all ended up outside. My father was involved in some way, attempting to de-escalate the situation, but it is challenging for me to recall exactly how or what he said. Throughout the entire episode, I was essentially frozen in shock. Much more was discussed, but the confrontation concluded with Daniel returning inside while remaining furious. Following this, Lily broke down in tears. She is physically small and generally shy, typically avoiding conflicts, so her defending me was remarkable. She began shaking uncontrollably and gasping for breath, and I suspect she experienced a panic attack. She expressed that she feared Daniel might physically assault us, and I do not blame her. Now, the focus of my brother's anger seems to be that I was too calm when I informed him that Addie was outside. He also suggested that I should have effectively communicated that my father and Lily were outside trying to catch him, claiming that I had panicked him. My response to that is that I was not genuinely calm. I was, in fact, very troubled by Addie's escape. However, I tend to manage my emotions effectively during emergencies, maintaining my composure and taking action. I am not perfect, and I will acknowledge that I could have prefaced my statement with, "Do not panic. Dad and Lily are outside, but..." In hindsight, I recognize that would have been more beneficial. However, I was distressed and focused solely on relaying the critical information that Addie had escaped directly, calmly, and swiftly so that Daniel and Sarah could assist in capturing him as quickly as possible. As mentioned, the entire incident lasted under a minute, and I did not have time to consider the optimal way to communicate. He needed to know about his cat's escape immediately, so I conveyed that information promptly. After I said, "Dan, Addie has gotten outside," he and Sarah dashed out too quickly for me to interject another comment. At any rate, that covers all the details. The crux of the issue is that regardless of whether I could have been more effective in my communication, I believe my brother's response was entirely unwarranted, profoundly disrespectful, and constitutes verbal abuse. The manner in which he treated both me and Lily has left me furious. My girlfriend should never feel unsafe, especially in my home, and he had no right to attempt to expel her. She was left in such a state of emotional turmoil that she had to call her mother to come and retrieve her because she felt unsafe to drive, and she declared that she would not return here unless Daniel is gone. So, what is the purpose of my post? My brother is still enraged with me and demanding an apology. My father seems to agree that Daniel's behavior was inappropriate, yet he insists that he cannot take sides. He has not expressed whether he believes I acted wrongly, but he also refuses to support me or condemn Daniel's conduct. Consequently, I find myself alone in the house with a hostile brother, a fiancé who has accused me of lacking understanding regarding the significance of Addie to them, which is baffling, and a father who will not defend my stance. I am essentially hiding in my room right now, knowing that once I step out, Daniel will confront me with his irrational justifications, dismiss any responsibility for his actions, and demand an apology from me. This behavior has been characteristic of him. I am uncertain. I believe I have communicated my perspective very clearly, but is there something I am overlooking? Is there something I fail to recognize? I am extremely angry. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for stopping contact between my sibling and his family and mine, including my kids, after he has given me the silent treatment due to my overstimulation? I am awed. I will begin by stating that I am an individual with a dual diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, who has been attempting to unmask for approximately 6 months and is currently 7 months pregnant. I have a 14-year-old son and a 21-month-old daughter. My brother and his family have just returned after being away for 2 decades due to his military service. My son's birthday lunch began well. We were dining at his favorite Mexican restaurant, which is always rather loud, but I can usually manage without too many additional stressors. The server brought out 4 packs of tortillas, clearly intended for 4 meals. However, only 3 people were aware of them. I attempted to explain to my father that they typically provide 1 pack per meal, so someone must be missing theirs and that it was not 2 packs per person. My niece, who is almost 18, chose to interrupt me as usual and spoke over me, stating that we could simply order more and that it was not a big deal, repeating this in my right ear while I was trying to speak. After several instances of her getting louder, I said that I had heard her. This was my effort to reduce the overwhelming stimulus, which I can manage if it is not disrespectful. After a few more interruptions, I raised my right hand, glanced toward the restrooms, and said, "Hold on," quite loudly because, firstly, I could not hear anything at that moment, including my own voice, and secondly, my anxiety had reached its peak. My husband noticed my distress and my attempts to ignore it and then put an end to it. I became aware that my voice was elevated and could be misinterpreted, so I quickly said, "I am not trying to be mean, it's just too much." This was not directed specifically at her, it applied to anyone talking at or over me while I was trying to express something. Immediately, my sister-in-law asked, "Did she snap at you?" And my niece replied, "Yes." They do not understand the context, and I am sure my niece did not communicate her part in it, as they were raised to talk over people, similar to how my sister-in-law behaves. Regardless, I reached out to my brother when I heard their accusations about my behavior and asked if they were accurate. He ignored me. Days later, I decided to apologize to my niece for how my response might have come across, expressing that it was not personal, but I was sorry if it seemed as though I had snapped at her. I simply felt overwhelmed, and her speaking over me exacerbated that feeling. Her reply was, "Oh, that's not how I remember it, but thank you for apologizing." Little do they realize that this was not even close to what it feels like when I truly snap. I was unable to hear myself think because my brain processes all noises simultaneously, which is much more intense than what most people experience. My anxiety escalated, and it is never my intention to attack or hurt anyone. Anyone who knows me understands this. I should also mention that my brother has frequently scolded my son for actions that he had permission for, or for things that even my parents acknowledged were wrong when they witnessed them. However, I do not engage in the behaviors he exhibits toward my son, which mirror what my aunt did to me. Anyway, it has now been a month, and my brother, who is 41 years old, has given me the silent treatment. I wished my niece a happy birthday, but received no response from her either. I am contemplating cutting him off entirely, given the history that he is well aware of. As someone with a dual diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I have attracted narcissists who have mistreated me. I had an aunt who consistently pitted my cousin, who is 9 months older than me, against me, and I was always considered the black sheep. Our mother was raised with narcissistic tendencies that were passed down from her own mother, so the silent treatment has often served as punishment, although not this severe. I deal with severe post-traumatic stress disorder and abandonment issues, coupled with very low self-esteem, as I have often been the scapegoat and doormat to avoid conflict while my brother did as he pleased. As adults, we have scarcely seen each other. When they returned, I made attempts to spend time with them and build a better relationship, but they always had excuses or expressed disinterest in attending my son's baseball games. In contrast, my son attended my nephew's games without even being asked because he cares. Furthermore, I discovered that they have been attending all of my niece's boyfriend's baseball games. He has excluded me from family matters, despite the fact that I have done everything to establish our lineage and heritage. He prioritizes his friends and his children's boyfriend over his own sister, which has shattered me completely. To say this month has been torturous would be an understatement. I am 7 months pregnant, have cried every day for hours, lost weight, am unable to eat, my nerves are frayed, and I have been experiencing panic attacks again. I feel utterly broken by this situation. He always claimed he would never treat me this way, but he has completely abandoned me and my family. So, am I the antagonist for deciding that I have had enough and will no longer let him into our lives? I plan to attend my niece's birthday lunch, whether welcomed or not, give her a gift, and then leave. I am not like him, I cannot be heartless, but I can no longer subject my children or myself to this situation. I believe it is best to simply distance myself. Consequently, this means he will miss the opportunity to meet his baby niece in a couple of months. He has had almost 2 years with my current daughter, and has spent perhaps a total of 16 hours with her, and the same goes for my son since their return over the past 2 years. So would that make me the antagonist? I apologize for the details and any random digressions. This is simply part of living with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and autism spectrum disorder.